Hey, now, good morning, good afternoon, or whenever you're listening to. I'm Podcast Pete, and I have two ladies that came over from Cherokee County to be on the podcast. I'm going to call them, this is just me, the connectors. So they connect senior services with our seniors in Cherokee County. So we really wanted to have them on the show so we can start connecting with the services and then the people that provide the services. So I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. So do you go first, and then we'll go over to Tracie. Who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
All right. Thanks, Pete. I'm Gale, and I work for Cherokee County Senior Services. I'm the resource coordinator, and I try to just get all different resources I can come up with to help seniors in our community.
Awesome. That sounds good. Tracie?
Yes, I'm Tracie Ashley, and I'm with Senior Planners, and I am a somewhat placement company to your loved ones when they can either no longer stay at home because it's not safe, or they medically need somewhere to go. And it's all a la carte. It is, I work directly with them during the transition and even afterwards.
It's so important. Let me just go to Tracie first. It's so important to know what is available. And I see my friend, he called me the other day, and his mom moved back from Hungary and needed medical services in the area. And he's driving around, and I said, "What you doing?" He goes, "I'm trying to find such and such for mom." And I said, "Craig, you know what I do?" And he's like, "What?" I said, "I do. I talk to seniors about senior living on the podcast." "Oh, I didn't realize that." So people don't know what they don't know. And they come in blind expecting to find places and services for their parents. So first off, what would you say in your travels? What's the number one thing you hear when people are saying, I need this? What would it be?
The number one is they don't know if they need it. They want to do it, but they're scared. They're scared to pull the trigger. They wait until it is past the point of needing to go instead of doing it in advance to have a smoother transition. They want to know what their options are, but yet they don't even know what their options are. And it's funny, I say all the time, you don't know what you don't know. And you don't even know until you're already in the middle of the fire.
Are they coming to you, and then we'll go to D and say, are they coming to you like saying, "Help me," or are they saying something specific that they're looking for?
Most of the time it's a sense of urgency because they need help. Because they have a parent that has taken a fall, and they're having to, go to rehab, or they've just waited too long and they're having in-home care and it's too expensive. And so they need some help. They need assistance with, what do I do? I don't know what to do. And sometimes I feel like we are a last resort, when in actuality, if they knew really what we did, we would be their first call and first resort.
Totally.
And the one thing, it's a misconception, is I'm at no charge to the families. They pay me nothing.
And all the facilities, all the resources. It's kind of like you're the best kept secret for seniors, because they need what you know, but they don't know that what they need you. Yeah, it's like, so that is definitely a challenge.
Well, I think too, a lot of seniors and their caregivers, which is usually their children, are waiting till it's crisis mode.
Yes.
And that's when it becomes very more challenging, because then it, comes down to a financial situation, and then Tracie has to work hard to find those locations that maybe they can afford, or maybe if they looked into it a little bit sooner, they could have a better plan figured out for that.
Correct. Because, sometimes it's the base pay, rent, your room and board, should I say, and then its level of care is added on. And if you wait, your level of care goes up. I mean, you have to pay for the care.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point that she said, also, sometimes people just look at the outside of the building, or when they walk in, like, oh, this is so pretty, like we do when we walk in here. But they're not looking at the care. What I tell people is, just because it has a beautiful building, like if you drive down West Paces Ferry Road, everybody, when you're growing up or when you're younger, like, oh, I want to live in that house.
Yeah.
That house is beautiful. But you go to the house, you open it up, it may be as sterile as can be. There's nothing behind the doors. Well,
Totally.
I work with so many different communities that I know if the caregivers are good, if the care is good, not just that if it looks good.
Yeah.
And that's a huge difference. You don't want someone to go somewhere just because it looks good and it's a cruise ship on land where they get all the bells and whistles, except for the care.
And that's so crucial because the family members need to feel that they're put their loved one in a place that they can feel happy, secure, because this is a traumatic change
100%.
for any senior leaving their home and having to go somewhere new to live at that stage in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that because that happened to my mother-in-law in Illinois. You know, when my father-in-law passed away, you know, that was what we had to do, was put her in an assisted living. She's happy, but, you know, I always think, what if that place wasn't a good option? You know, and there aren't really other options in the small town she lives in Illinois. So thank goodness it worked out.
Absolutely.
But there was no looking at it in advance. Even though there were times we were trying to tell my mother-in-law and father-in-law, let's go, it was always like, no, I'm not going to live in one of those places. But then my father-in-law passed away, and she realized she can't also live there by herself in her home. So it ended up being kind of a crisis mode. And luckily it worked out. But
absolutely. And, you know, they can be as independent as they want to be in certain communities, all the way to memory care to end of life, where hospice, if they need more care as they're in assisted living, they can have a home health care person can come in, or as they progress or digress, however you want to say, hospice can come in and they can age in place and then go see our Heavenly Father after that. But they can do it all from one community.
Yeah, there's some benefits to that for sure. What would you say, Dee, at the Cherokee Senior Center? What's the service that's most popular out there? What are people wanting?
Meals on Wheels and probably some homemaker services is probably the most popular. But they also come and hang out and have activities too. So
like what kind of activities?
Well, of course, bingo. That's always your everyday bingo.
Is it really every day? We only have it twice a week.
1 o'clock, they got their
Yeah.
bingo. But then they just have different people that might come in and talk to them. It could be someone like Tracie that comes in and shares some information. It could be someone in the home healthcare, you know, that comes in, does some fun games with them, shares some, you know, information with them. But a lot of times it's just the calls also that come into our senior center, you know, and that's where we see a lot of people, to me, that are in crisis out there. They don't know where the information is. They don't know how to get the information. There was something one of our silver roamers said that really kind of, I don't know, was a red flag to me, was that when you move to a community that you're not used to living at, say you move from out of state because you're moving down to be closer to your children and your grandchildren. One of the things that gentleman said is like, where do you go to get resources for what you need? You know? And I was like, wow, good idea. And I was like, we got to figure out how to do that better, you know? And maybe it's putting a resource book at the driver's license facility, you know, because you usually got to change your driver's license. Or you put something at the tax office, you know, because if they're purchasing something, they might be at the tax office. So anyway, those are little things I think we got to do better at in our community. So that's why we're here, because we want to figure out how to, you know, share as much information as we can find for the seniors.
That is key. And you know, we're in that weird transition from print to digital, but we still need print. everybody wants us to have that digital, like have an email, go on to a website. But some of our seniors, and I know here, they don't even have an email address.
Mhm.
So if you're emailing them, they're not getting it. And we were talking before we came on, the DA for Cobb County was talking about at a town hall, the person holds his hand up and they say, well, yeah, you can get your information. Just give us your email. And the person goes, I don't have an email. And it's going like, yeah, you're talking to seniors, not 25 years old.
Mhm.
And so you have to be aware of how people receive information. So I think that's a brilliant idea that if somebody's coming to get a driver's license or tax office, they're obviously newish to get this kind of stuff.
Right.
Meet them where they come, where they will be coming to try to find out things and get them that information, because that old saying, we said it just a few minutes ago, you don't know what you don't know if you can't provide that information. What would you say, like, as it's very crowded out there, there's a lot of noise. So in doing this podcast, we want to be a resource for information for the county. So that way that people will know they can come on your show and educate people. Now we can take information like this and put it in print. So what else would you say as we embark in an information crowded market? What other services are like popular, one, and what other services would you like to provide, but you don't have the resources right now? And you guys can choose who answers that.
Oh, yeah.
Housing is not affordable. Everyone did not plan,
Mhm.
budget plan for this stage of their life. And let's face it, the communities are expensive.
Mhm.
They are very expensive. And we have that core group, and Dee can speak on this a whole lot more than I can, other than working with them. We have no place for them because they simply cannot make it work. With their Social Security, does not get it. So we need affordable housing.
I agree. We get calls every day about it. We put people up in motels through a nonprofit that we work together with.
Mhm.
And it's a crisis mode because,
Mhm.
The housing market's off the chain. Who can't deny that?
Mhm.
I mean, even your kids coming out of college can't afford to hardly buy a home.
Mhm.
So, and I can speak to that because it's happening right now in my life with my son and his soon-to-be wife.
Yeah.
But for seniors, for my son and his wife, they could possibly go get a part-time job. These seniors, a lot of them also have a disability. So they don't necessarily can go back to work.
Right.
And what they got paid at an hourly wage, and so what their Social Security is giving them is not enough to cover anywhere to rent.
Mhm.
There's not enough of, the affordable, attainable housing. There's not enough, maybe Section 8. A lot of people hear Section 8 and think, oh, I don't want that in my backyard. That isn't a bad place to be. They're not run down. They're nicely built. They're beautiful. They're well kept.
Mhm.
Again, because they're senior communities. So they're really nice, and it gives everyone a place to feel like they have a home, a place they can call home, not a Motel 6 motel room.
Extended
stays,
Right.
and the extended stays are getting so expensive that a lot of times seniors call us for financial assistance just to get them through the month because their income, again, isn't even getting them through an extended stay. So yeah, housing is in a crisis mode, in my opinion.
Mine too. And then what's something you're passionate about as well is education.
Yes.
Education.
Yes. I think we've got to get the word out there more about just all the different services. I mean, I really want to attack even hospice, there's a really, a lot of people just think it's end of life, there's so
Huge
many
misconception.
Yes. So, and you probably know a little bit more about that,
There's a huge misconception with people, and maybe in the past it was, I'm not sure about that, but that you only get hospice if you're going to be passing away soon, 6 months or less or whatever. And in actuality, that is not the case at all. Hospice, you can be on hospice up to 2 years. Granted, you are not making any progress to get better. If you are, you can come off hospice, but you can go back on hospice. They can take you off and put you back on. So I think that is something that people are not aware of, and they need to be educated on that more. I mean, that's even sometimes when I place people in places, specifically in personal care homes, they're like, can they come in a hospice so we don't have to continue to make their level of care go up? And they have people to help their CNAs take care of them.
Yeah, I don't know if you know Laura Gleason with Blue Summit. Do you all know?
No,
she works in this area, so maybe not. But I didn't know any. I thought hospice was end of life, but she was educating me on just what you said. They go off it, they come back on it. It just is a stage that a person needs more care, and the hospice nurses are trained to know all the different things. And so, so knowing that your options are when you get to certain stages in your life are important. I wanted to ask you this because we did have a person on our podcast, tiny homes. Have you ever heard of those? So is Cherokee, and I don't know, is Cherokee zoned to accept tiny homes? Because it's a zoning issue for the places that we're trying to get some traction. Do y'all know anything about?
I do not. I can't speak on that. I don't know.
Well, I think it's something that it probably could be that goes into the whole politics and getting in with your commissioners and your commissioners agreeing, and making sure that there's that you just can't put up any type of tiny home,
right?
That there's a model or a certain architectural style or type. So that's a hoop I think we've yet to hurdle. So I think it's something that could happen. I personally, for seniors, feel like, the high rises are the better because they can provide an elevator. You can get more security, more units, where tiny homes have to take out a lot of land. And then that's
not only that, but they have to be able to maneuver if they're in a wheelchair or
in those lofts that they have. We have a situation here. And I just want to ask y'all, because y'all more familiar, that if you have a fire drill and on the 4th floor, we got rollators up here. You got to go down the stairs. I've never seen a person go down the stairs on a rollator. And it's like, now they're deciding like, oh my gosh, we got people in positions that we can't get them out. And it's like, those are the kind of things you have to think about, because it's like, if you don't plan and you don't know what your market is, you make those mistakes, and you put somebody with a rollator on the 4th floor, and you can jump off the balcony, but the pool is just a little bit of a if you miss, hey, it's not very good.
You will not have a good result.
But I know Dee knows Ed Milet, so maybe you can put in a call with him, because you said you have to know people. So, and we're talking politics, so maybe we need to check our resources. Let's see. I want to ask a couple more questions because I want to be respectful of your time, of both of y'all's time. So tell me, when it comes to like Cherokee County, you look over into Cobb County, and Cobb County is is more developed in their services. If you were like looking, what services that are going on in Cobb would you like to see in Cherokee?
Well, funding, they probably get more than anything, but they're also for senior services for Cherokee County. That's based on a federal funding that comes down from the federal government. So, and it's based on a population. Cobb obviously is a lot larger, so they get a lot more grant dollars from the federal government than Cherokee does. It doesn't mean we don't need more. It's just how that is. And so that's where then you have to really rely on a lot of outside, like the nonprofits, Stand Up for Seniors. You know, you have to other resources to kind of help try to filter and fill in the gap. But I don't think there's any difference other than there's a population difference. And so Cobb Senior Services is going to get a lot more federal dollars than Cherokee County is, you know.
And especially since the Brave Stadium's there.
Yeah.
That generates
so that there's a lot of revenue that comes in.
That's how Cobb County's education, the teachers and all of those people have gotten their raises have gone through the roof. They got 13% raise 3 years ago.
Wow. So helping our viewers understand, if you look at, obviously the stadium has boosted up tax revenue. What is it simply because I know Cobb has like 8 buses. That's a lot of buses. So would there be, if we took the stadium out, would it just be population is determined the funding?
Yes.
Okay. So it's simply a population challenge. I mean, not challenge, but difference.
Right. And like our Cherokee County's growing by leaps and bounds.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the commissioners are trying to catch up. Now our transportation, there's a lot of state that's involved with that, you know, so there's a lot of different pieces when
Right.
it comes to a lot of this with the county.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as a whole, for Tracie and I'm more on a mission of, you know, things that I can't necessarily fix right now. I'd rather try to educate the community
Mm-hmm.
on what resources are out there for them so that they don't either get in crisis mode, wait to the last minute, and they can prepare, you know, because sometimes I even say that to my husband. We have some things we need to talk about. I just said to him last week, hey, we're sitting here eating dinner. Let's talk about, what do you want when you pass away? You know, do you want to be cremated? Do you want to have a,
nobody wants to
like,
have those
and he's like, I don't really want to talk about that right now. And I go, well, but we have to talk about this.
Yes.
And I'm like, I don't think there's ever a good time. And so I feel for myself personally, I could end up in a crisis situation one time. If something happens to him or me, do we have that figured out? You know, so I'm wanting to educate, you know, and even the younger generation, like, you know, needs to know a lot of this stuff instead of waiting till like, I'm not there yet. I'll wait till I get older. You know, well, it's necessarily not about you. It might be about your loved ones, your family members, an aunt, you know, maybe you're helping an aunt, an uncle, you know, it's not just about parents, you know? So I don't know. I just feel like there's a big education gap right now about senior resources in our community.
Agreed.
I would ditto both that, because it is. And those uncomfortable conversations are needed. It's a whole lot worse than when you need it and you didn't have that conversation. Because I see it here. There's a gentleman, he's going through all these steps because there were things that his wife had in her name that they just didn't, you know, address. Now, I mean, you have to go through all kinds of hoops to change things that you, if you did some proactive, you know, planning per se, you wouldn't be spending hours and hours. And as a senior, it's not like you're 25 and you can just, you have all the things at your fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
You're older, getting around, figuring out where things are. It's a maze out there of options that are constantly changing. So people are not aware, but I do think you got to have those uncomfortable conversations.
Agreed. And to
really,
that point,
Mhm.
point, it may be uncomfortable at that moment, but it will make things so much easier
Yeah.
on your loved one
Yeah,
in the end.
totally.
I mean, and I think that you have to even get ready. I mean, everybody, in my opinion, needs to have a POA. What happens if you fall right now and you become brain dead? You have to have that and a living will. I think those are the two
Yes.
most important things.
So is that the directive?
Yes, sir.
So what does that stand for?
Power of attorney.
Power of attorney. Yes. Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
Otherwise, it is an act of Congress almost.
Right.
It is an act of Congress almost.
Do you know what people do? Do you have to go to an attorney to get that done, or is that a state planner? Where does that originate?
You can go to attorney. You can go to an elder care law person.
Okay.
I don't know if a notary can do that. That works at a attorney's office.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that, to be honest with you.
Okay. No, I it's come up in some shows, and I just haven't. I didn't. They mention it, but I was just curious to know.
Well, and these are topics, Pete, that I think when we don't have the answer,
Mhm.
this is where we need to bring on the
Yes.
person that does have the answer.
Yes.
So that we can share this information with the community in
Mhm.
Cherokee County.
So good. Now, somebody said that you all are the Cherokee Senior Connectors. Do you think that a guest that has that knowledge would want to come on your show?
I would hope so.
Me too. Who wouldn't?
Yes.
Dang, I think
Bring it on.
we got our first guest. So if you're out there and well, y'all probably know some people, but yeah, just share this with people that you think could benefit, especially if you're in Cherokee County, because that's where their footprint is. That's where they know best where things, where the resources are and available. So I want you to tell our viewers, I'll put it up on the screen, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, you can reach me at 678-230-4067. I'd be happy to find any information that you need, answer your questions as best I can. So yeah, reach me there, and Tracie and I will get you anything you need.
Now, if somebody's looking to locator services, Tracie, would that be a separate call to you to be able to get? It
can be, or they can go directly to D, and D can send them to me.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you either in Cherokee County and want to know what the services are available, and you need to get a hold of, Cherokee, the number's on the screen, and we'll also put it in the show notes. And then if you're looking for some services for your aging parent, and you need to have somebody that knows and understands the facilities, then you want to get a hold of Tracie. So also, I want both of you, what is the one thing, and we'll go since Dee's on my, let's see, left. Okay. One thing that you would want people to take home from this podcast, and then we'll go to Tracie.
Don't wait till it's crisis mode in your life. Find out anything that you need to know, have things in place. Don't wait till it's, you just never know. I mean, I can just real quickly say my girlfriend, she didn't know that her husband was going to die at 55. There was nothing planned. There was nothing in place. That was just conversations they didn't have. So it kind of threw her into this crisis mode also of like, I don't know about the casket and everything. So again, I would just be prepared for whatever stages of life. Don't just live day to day thinking, oh, I got it. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I know, like I said, my husband and I got some things we need to take care of. It's just, I got to get the other half to really sit at the table and get it done. But yeah, I would just most importantly say, don't wait till the last minute.
Awesome. How about you, Tracie? What would be the one thing you would want our viewers to take home from this
Let them know
podcast?
they're not alone. You don't have to go through this alone.
Mm-hmm.
There's no sense in going through it alone.
Mhm.
When you have resources and we can help you find the resources with every step that you're going to have to take. And we're knowledgeable and we can alleviate so much of the stress. It's hard enough having to walk through this and doing the transition of whatever your transition may be from moving or death or whatever. So we can alleviate so much of that if you allow us to.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know what questions to ask. Sometimes we're like, I don't know where to turn. Where do I turn? That one phone number is your best friend.
Awesome.
Put it on your phone. Put it on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Put it on your refrigerator if you don't have a phone. If you can't remember where you put it in your phone, like me sometimes. But that number will be your best friend because we can help you through whatever it is you're walking in.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you all for coming all the way across the county lines and coming over into Cobb County.
Thanks.
So,
Yes, thanks.
yes. And I want to tell our viewers, I'm going to put both of them on the spot. They don't know this. So if you're a guest and you do business, a vendor in Cherokee County, and you want to get your services known out there, get a hold of them so you can be a guest on their podcast. And that way will help more people know what resources are out there and available for the seniors in Cherokee County.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to have you all here.